Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Grassroots Racer. Today we're here with Brad Hall. He's one of the members out from Bendigo Car Club, and he's done quite a fair bit of racing in his time, so been lucky enough to interview him here today. So Brad, I guess we'll get straight into it. How did you get involved in motorsports?
G'day Ayrton. Probably from the start, I was just one of the guys running around the backyard, riding motorbikes, driving cars, right up until I was 18. My parents weren't really into motorsport. So it was only until I could drive myself to the track that I really got involved. So 18 years old is when I sort of started racing, and I went straight into motocross.
Yeah, and obviously motocross is a difficult sport. So how did you find it compared to later on when you stepped into a car?
Yeah, motocross is definitely a very hard, demanding physical sport. I found stepping into a car really quite easy after motocross. Obviously there's not as much fitness or setup or anything like that, so I found the transition actually quite easy, which was good, which sort of meant I was up to speed pretty much straight away.
Yeah, and when you raced the bikes, what sort of bikes did you race? Did you start small at 50cc and work your way up, or? No,
well, as I said, I was 18, so I pretty much jumped straight on a 250. Entered a lot of the Bendigo Motorcycle Club events. So I was straight out to Ravenswood, our local track here, racing pretty much the C-grade motocross, and then went into their enduro championship, natural terrains, and pretty much anything from then on. And then, once 18, 19, 20, 21, I sort of got into road bikes a little bit, track bikes, got into some trials for a while, got into some speedway racing, which was on the sliders, the 500cc ones, no brakes. So it was bikes pretty much every weekend for a long time until I sort of got a little bit old for bikes, and about 2010 was my last season on the bikes.
Yeah,
and then got a car and sort of thought, well, maybe this is the next step for me.
Yeah. So when you got your car, you obviously jumped in it. Did you do rally straight away, or did you do track?
So I started off at the Bendigo Car Club.
Mm-hmm.
So how it all started, I went for a ride with a friend of mine. They had a come and try day, and he took me around in his Stanza. And I thought, well, this is, seems okay. It was, it all sort of seemed in control. You were inside a car, obviously, and it didn't seem sort of as violent as sometimes the motocross can be. So I thought, maybe I can handle this. I reckon I can go okay. So from then on, I sort of put in the back of my mind. And then, as I said, 2010 was my last full season of motocross or motorcycle racing. Had a look on eBay, bought a Subaru, which I'm still running now for a pretty good deal on eBay, and entered the Bendigo Car Club Autocross Championship, and sort of started from there, and then the track stuff come shortly after.
Yeah, and obviously, you've racked a few wins under and titles at Bendigo Car Club.
Yeah.
Did you ever have to sort of think and do a bit of R&D to the car, or is it all sort of pretty basic and similar to what everyone else runs?
Yeah, the two cars I run, the one behind me was pretty much, I bought that off a local guy, Tristan. He had this one pretty well set up. It ran second outright in the Victorian Rally Championship the year I bought it. He stepped up to a new car. So he pretty much knew what was going on. I didn't really change much with the car. I pretty much drove it for what it was. The other car we run, the black WRX, that's actually quite standard. Mechanically speaking, I'm not overly fussed on tuning and all that sort of stuff. I'm not overly mechanical on the things. I don't tinker with them too much. I just get in, and I'm more of a driver than a mechanic.
Yep.
So I get in and drive them. So that one's fairly stock. It's had a few little bits and pieces just to make it handle well. It's down on power a little bit now compared to a few of the other cars that we race against, but I've always had a good handling car in that other black one and this one here. So that sort of makes up for it. But I don't sort of throw too much money at developing them. It's more throwing money at keeping them running.
Yeah, and obviously when I first started out at the car club, I always ran street tyres and stuff. Mm-hmm. Did you ever do the same, or did you always have rally tyres from the get-go?
No, I went straight to rally tyres. As you know, rally tyres are quite expensive, so I started off on a fairly second-hand set. and did a season or two, sort of fought my way around, and then to take the next step, you have to start sort of throwing some good tyres and things at them. So from then on, start off on second-hand ones and then sort of progress from there.
Yeah. And we were just talking beforehand, this is getting its engine done.
Yeah, so we had some engine problems with this one at the end of last year. We sort of limped it through to the end of the season. And, the engine's out of this one at the moment, fortunately. So hopefully I'll have it back in a month or two and should be fresher and faster and ready to go again. So looking forward to it. And
do you reckon you'll be competing next time out, I think, in a week or two?
Yeah, pretty full weekend for me next weekend. So I've got the Bendigo Car Club on Saturday and Kyneton Car Club on Sunday. So we'll be having the bitumen round on the Saturday. I'll pretty much roll the car in Saturday night, swap from the road tyres to rally tyres again, and back out to Kyneton on Sunday.
Cool. And is there many differences, I guess, in the surface? Because when you go out to bag shot, it's gravelly and clay type. And what's Kyneton like?
Yeah, Kyneton's normally pretty smooth. It can rut up a little bit. It does seem to hold its water, so when it's wet there, it stays wet for most part of the day. They're not too dissimilar. I find that, I don't really have trouble moving from one track to another, but I've done both tracks for so long now. It's sort of pretty standard. You sort of know what you're going to get, what you're in for, and and what the track's going to present.
And you can even get used to the layouts. Like I've only been doing Bendigo Car Club for 2 years, and whenever we sort of do a layout in the what do we call it? The guide lap we do, the sighting
lap.
I sort of already know what to look for and where's a good place to drive. But we do notice in the mornings it's very rough, very skatey, and then it grips up later in the day.
Yeah, exactly. It depends whether they've graded it and done work between the rounds as well. If they've graded and pulled the soft stuff back on, the track starts off pretty dry or pretty skatey in the morning. And once it dusts off and that top level of dirt goes off, then the track seems to grip up and go a bit faster towards the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely be excited to get my Subaru back on track. I just got the diff replaced.
Oh, sweet.
Because someone might have dropped it at Winton, but
right.
it'll be all right. Have you ever had many issues with this other than the engine?
No, this one's been pretty reliable, which is good. It's a testament to the guy that bought the car. I bought the car off. That's been really well prepared. So this one's been really good. I've run this one for a bit over 10 years now. The black Subaru, which I also run, it's on its second engine and third gearbox. So I drive that one a little bit more conservatively now. Look after the gearbox and all the running gear, because as you know, the Subaru gearboxes and stuff aren't much fun to change. So, and they're expensive and they're getting hard to get. So now we try and drive as sympathetically as we can nowadays.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky thing to keep the Subarus going, because obviously there's not a heap of them left, and I run the GC8 Impreza. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's lucky or not that mine's not a WRX, so it probably doesn't go as hard. But yeah, she's still got quite a bit of power at the rear wheels.
Yeah, exactly. I've got an RX as well, an all-wheel drive one, which I ran in some intro rallies for a while, and they're a really good stepping stone to get your racecraft right before you step into a WRX. I think, absolutely. Driving a car with a little bit less power teaches you all the skills you need to learn before you can step into something with a bit more power, so you can do it safely.
Well, the Getz was always a bit of fun. Front-wheel drive, though, I felt like if that had a bit more power, it would have been really quick, because it did win me a few events, where the Subaru, we haven't really had the same success. Yeah,
well, you're stepping up sort of into a pretty big class, and you're still running juniors, is that right? Yeah, and another year or two left of juniors, so hopefully you can make that step when time comes. Look, there's good speed in those Imprezas, the non-turbo ones. You've just got to sort of keep pushing with it and unlock that speed, and they're quite a good car. You just got to keep the corner speed up and just remember they're down on power a little bit, I guess.
Well, I wish I could race in seniors so I can put my all-wheel drive back in, because I'd happily race in seniors if I could have all-wheel drive back. It's just I've never driven with all-wheel drive.
It's a different it's a different thing. They do handle good to a point, but you do find you get into the corners faster, and you can certainly get yourself into more trouble with a lot of grip because you'll accelerate out of the corners better. You'll carry more speed down the straight and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I'm sure you're looking forward to it. And what is it, another year or so before you...
Yeah, another year or two, yeah.
Year or two, and then you'll be playing with the big boys. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to catch you. You're gonna be the benchmark.
Yeah, well, hopefully this thing will be finished by then. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see what happens in another year or two. Like, we might have other members come in and give us all a bit of a hurry up. So it really depends who shows up at the first, second, third rounds of this year. So I'm not sure who's going to be the contenders this year.
Well, you're definitely the benchmark for some, because I remember last season at the awards night you won. You walked away with a fair few.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky. I think I've just wrapped up the Bendigo Car Club title for the fourth time. I've won the Kyneton one about 6 or 7 times in a row now. So, yeah, I had what they call a perfect season last year, so I didn't get beaten at any round for Kyneton last year. So I've had a pretty good run. Of the cars have been really reliable. So, yeah, pretty happy with the run I'm on at the moment.
Yeah, that's obviously really good. And so you say you might have this thing running in 2 months?
Yeah, the motor's all the machining's been done on the motor. So it's back with the mechanic now, and hopefully the mechanic sort of gets his bum into gear and puts it back together, and then we can run the shell back around to him and drop the motor back in it, and then it's just a little bit of running in, and we can bang some good tyres on it, and away we go again, hopefully, and then look after it. And then after that rebuild, it might see my career out. I'm not sure.
Well, you've also got the sale yards on a fair bit. So do you ever do it in these cars, or do you normally skip them rounds?
Yeah, I've run this one in the sale yards once, and to be honest, it's a big handful. It's set up for gravel, for rally.
Yeah.
And that normally doesn't work on the tarmac. I've run my road car at the sale yards before. That seems to go okay. Next weekend I'll run the Black Rex because it's got the hydraulic handbrake. Yeah. You get in and out of the cones. It'll be a tighter course, being a Motorcana, not a Carnacross. So yeah, that's the one I'll plan to run. It's a good middle of the road car. It's not fantastic in the dirt. It's not fantastic on the road, but it seems to do everything okay. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's where the rear wheel drive for me might help a bit, because I could just handbrake and just spin around the cones, because sometimes you got to loop around them.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, it's not always faster to handbrake around the corners. I've done runs before where I've handbraked everywhere, and done other corners where you just drive tight and clean, and the times are nearly identical.
It really depends on A, the driver, and B, the conditions, and I also guess just how you feel like you should drive it. If you should drive it smooth, aggressive.
Yeah.
See how hard you can go into the corners.
Yeah, exactly. And the best thing with the Motorcana this weekend, you'll get 2 runs. So you can do one run of one way, do one run of the other way, and compare your time and see what works for you.
Yeah. So do they count both, or just your best?
As I understand it, they count both. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it when you do 2 runs and they only do your best.
Yeah, that's a good thing. But, it rewards consistency, counting all the time. So that's also good.
Yeah, and, we've got a few go-karts here, so I guess you've also done a bit of go-karting in your time?
Yeah, been in and out of go-karts a couple of times, just at the Bendigo Kart Club track here, and also did some of the local interclub series, in and out, as I said. The kart I had back in the day was the Clubman 100J.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't even a Clubman, but... it wasn't a fast kart, but when it was wet, as you probably know, you can go okay with a bit more driver skill. Nowadays, I just go out for fun, just keep my eye in a few mates. We all go out together and rip some laps. So I think the competitive karting days are behind me now, but I still enjoy to go out to do some laps and see how much time we can squeeze out of these things.
Yeah, I'm glad I got out of go-karting. I just got way too competitive.
Did ya? Yeah.
It started to get to the point where you don't enjoy it, so that's where we sort of moved to superkarts. Because when people are throwing money at it and we're trying to compete, it's a very hard game.
Yeah. Unfortunately, with anything I've found with road stuff, track cars, go-karts and all that, it is a pay-to-play sort of game, and even though you might have the driver skill, if you haven't got the car underneath you, you're just really going to struggle. That's why I found say with motocross and enduro, for not a lot of money, you could have a very similar bike to what the front national guys are running. So then it was pretty much all up to skill and how much hard work you've done and fitness and things like that. So that's why, the motocross enduro sort of thing appealed to me a whole lot more.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a tricky thing, I think, motocross. I don't think I'd personally ever do it just because I'm not a very good bike rider. I've tried a bike once or twice and, fell on my ass like an idiot. So, but, I think the sliders are really cool on the speedway tracks. So, you said you did it, but did you do many years of it or?
Probably around 6 or 7 years all up. It just sort of got to the point where I was doing a little bit of motocross enduro, I was doing a little bit of the speedway, I was doing a little bit of trials, I did a little bit of go-karting, and I wasn't doing anything properly. So I sort of had to drop a few things off and say I'm going to concentrate on a couple of things and do that right. But, speedway was good fun, travelled a little bit. They actually paid you to race, which was handy. You'd have point money, so if you placed quite well, you'd pay for your costs for the night, and sometimes you'd make a little bit extra money, which is good. Just put it back into the bike. So, but yeah.
Where have I been?
Yeah, exactly. It was one of the motorsports, one of the few motorsports that pay you to even show up. But it's certainly a much different feeling with a concrete wall all the way around the outside. And not many people know that when you're on those bikes, the rear wheel's spinning all the time down the straight, and when you shut the throttle off, it actually gains speed because the rear wheel grips up and actually pushes you into the corner. So it's a really good way to learn about corner speed and how fast you can and can't get in and out of corners.
Yeah, well, I've talked to a few speedway guys and they all say on speedway, if you're in doubt, power out. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just got to train your brain to throttle on when you've come into a corner a little bit too hot and you don't know whether you're going to make it around or not.
Yeah. Well, I think the guys who do it at world national level are crazy.
Absolutely, and the tactics and race skill of those guys is just unbelievable. So, like when you understand what they're doing when they square up a corner and dart up the inside of guys and do slide jobs and things like that, and those bikes they very rarely come off full throttle.
Yeah,
and they're really wringing their next level. Absolutely, when we used to do a few shows with the car guys would always say, you bike guys are stupid, like you're just not human with the way I raced, you probably didn't do much at Bendigo when the speedway was on up there.
Nah,
they used to run the bikes.
I don't even think I was born there.
Probably not, it probably finished. I used to run some bikes, even the motocross bikes they used to use up there and the sliders and stuff. It was always a really good night, but unfortunately we've missed those days.
Yeah. Well, with that, I was born in 2007, so I think at that point the track was already shut.
Yeah, I think it was. It's a real shame. It was a really good track, close to town, which probably killed it in the end, the noise. But many a Saturday night was spent at the track, either watching or racing.
Well, a track that died and come back to life is Calder Park. And do you work with drive events?
Yeah. So I'm Andrew is one of Andrew's main guys, main instructors. Andrew and I, we run some events at Calder Park, we run events at Broadford, we run events at Phillip Island. So it's all happening now. We've got a little bit of time at Calder Park. Later this year we'll be able to run the Thunderdome layout as well. So we run the combined flat track. So I don't know if you know, as you go down the straight you'll be able to
turn left and
go around the dome back onto the flat track. So that's coming up. It's a good way for guys who can come in and do some test and tune, some race day practice, or even guys who just registered cars come and do some laps and find out what it's all about. And it's right in the middle of Melbourne, so it's great. We find it's really well supported so far.
Well, I know this Friday coming, you're having a lot of Formula V's guy.
Oh, really?
They're going to be coming because they heard I was there, and
right.
Yeah, they all want some track time now. So
the big thing for Calder is that big national meeting, the state meeting that's happening in August. So we're getting a lot of the XL guys from last time. They're all practicing for that meeting, so that's going to be quite big. It's going to be good for Calder to really put themselves back on the map and get some good some grassroots racing happening there.
And you've always got Trans Am, TA2.
Yeah.
So Dream Racing are actually based out at Calder.
Yeah.
So they'll probably be doing a fair bit of testing for their round later.
Yeah. So you had a chat to Craig and the guys there. They were involved with the other guys I work for at Fast Track.
Yeah.
They've got a really good setup there with their cars and, workshop that's right next door to a racetrack. Hell, you can't get any better than that, can you? Like, you go out, try something straight away. It's great for them. So they're quite happy to be there and be close to where it's all happening. Yeah,
well, I actually interviewed Craig on my show really early back, and two of their mechanics, Jackson Rice, who's also a driver, and Liam Hall, he races XLs. They're helping me span my Formula V.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so we've got a triangle connection to them. So
yeah, sweet. No, they're a great bunch of guys. And obviously know what they're doing. I'd love a steer of one of those TA2s. What about you?
Yeah. Heard they're a bit pricey though for even a test day.
Yeah, you don't want a bingle one, that's for sure. No, it's like one step down from the NASCAR. Actually, funny to say that the one before the track day before, a guy had an Xfinity NASCAR there as well. It was really honking around. So there's some big dollar cars that get out there on that track now, and it's good to see that support. Yeah, Fast Track have ran there since the days of when they used to do the rides and drives there. I was actually a customer of theirs way back in about 2010. I was actually just a customer doing a hoon around Calder. They used to do NASCAR rides and drives there, so I've been in a passenger seat of a NASCAR with George Elliott around the Thunderdome, so that was really good. And they used to run some drags there as well, like 2-seater drags, so they had the whole package right at Calder. Unfortunately, that's sort of finished for now, so they're all they joined up with V8 Race, who I worked for at the time, and they combined the two companies, and they run out of Sandown now.
Yeah, so I also heard in the driver's briefing they were saying that they ripped up the old drag strip, put down new concrete. So are they still going to run drags there? Or
Yeah, they'll run drags there. I'm not sure whether they'll run drags to like a top fuel level. Mm-hmm. It's what they call a non-VHT, so that's the treatment they put on the track. But when there's a little bit of moisture on the track, it just turns to glass. And as turning right onto that onto the straight, there's a concrete wall right there. So they've ripped it up, relayed it. It's a non-treated track now, so I think that was part of their licensing thing to be able to run state circuit stuff there. They'll have drags there, definitely. I just noticed the other day when you come out, that piece of concrete there was really rubbered up. So they have like Friday night roll racing and drags and things there nearly every Friday. So it's getting used all the time. Like the other day when we were there, we ran a track day on the flat track. They had rider licensing over the back for like motorbike guys, and they actually had a defensive driving course happening in the Thunderdome as well. So the track was the complex was getting used in 3 different ways on the one day.
Yeah. Well, I just want to know, I'm not sure if you know and you're allowed to reveal it or not, but is there many plans are they ripping up any more corners and putting new asphalt down anywhere?
On the flat track?
On the flat track.
It's pretty close to being finished. Andrew's in pretty good contact with the guy who's running it there now, who's taken over the day-to-day running of it. There's I'm not sure whether you noticed, there's a little flip-flop there with the tyres. They're just fixing up that little bit there and running a little bit more curbing around. That's going to be tidied up a little bit, and just down the end of the straight to the left, they're going to have a little bit more runoff onto the left. It's pretty close to being fully ticked off as a national circuit. There is talk of running all the way down to that bottom corner where you come into the pits, and then up the drag strip all the way, or just on the other side of that. So that's an option as well. But it's pretty close to being finished now. I think it drives okay.
Yeah. Well, me and Mum were making a few jokes the other day because there's technically there's not been any other 1600 Formula Vs at Calder Park. We were joking that I hold the unofficial lap record there because I'm the only one so far on the new circuit. So we'll see next week. I think a lot of people will go a lot quicker than what I did.
What was that yellow one?
That was a 1200 historic. So
it looked a little bit older.
So that was 1972, I think.
So did you put a time down? What was your time? Didn't have the timer on?
Didn't have the timer on.
Okay.
I'm still trying to work out the dash. It's the GPS, I think, is a bit funny in it. So.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I think I should just get an old Micron 5 or something.
Yeah, you can get the Microns, or you actually run a lot of apps off your phone now. When I'm at Bagshot or Kyneton, we can run an app called Track Addict, and you can pretty much drop GPS points all over the place and just and have your phone just on the dash or somewhere nearby, and it'll flash up your time, whether you're going fast or slower or otherwise, speeds and time. So there's lots of options.
If you can bolt your phone into the dash.
The quad lock or something similar would be okay, I'd imagine. So anything that's sort of fixed in that way, you probably have to check your scrutinies on the day on that one.
Yeah.
But for practice, I'm sure it'll be fine. Like, it's fixed on there.
I was spewing because I had the wrong SD card in my GoPro, so it wasn't large enough and I didn't get any footage.
Didn't get any at all?
Nah.
Okay.
Well, Mum had the good old iPad from the sidelines.
Yeah, sorry, they're on over the fence. What do you think about the fence there? It's pretty low, isn't it? Like I was saying that you go to Phillip Island or go to Winton or something like that, there's that big catch fence all the way down, and there's nothing there at Calder, so if a bit flies off the car, you're probably going to...
Are they planning on?
Not sure. It'll probably be a no-go zone anyway for anything except for key staff. There definitely won't be any spectators. They'll be up on that grassy hill when the racing's going on, so... What
about grid boxes? We had I was trying to look for them when I was doing practice starts.
Yeah, something they'll have to paint there. Yeah. That'll all be subject to whatever, whether it be AASA event or so they'll have to run all those down. I think a few of those guys did practice starts, didn't they? You did one or two.
Yeah. And the few times I did it, I was actually my clutch wasn't adjusted correctly.
Oh, okay.
So it was just on enough because I was going gear to gear and you couldn't hear the engine drop.
Oh,
and
okay.
I thought, was it holding revs? And then I realised the clutch has just been adjusted too tight. So.
Okay. That's why I suppose you do the practice starts, isn't it? Like, get them done and...
Well, also the fact I could smell the clutch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You can smell a few things. It's funny what you can smell at that start-finish line. We're like, oh, that smells like coolant. Oh, that smells like brakes. Smells like clutch.
Yeah.
So, you get a few different smells. And
well, I'll tell you what, them TA2s, because we were pitted right with them, they smell like clutch all the time. Yeah. So they must not be...
They run a sequential, so I'm not sure.
Dog box.
Once they get going, dog box. Okay, cool. They must be pretty hard on the gear. I know a lot of those dog boxes and stuff, their service intervals are actually quite tight. Like they don't do a lot of hours on them before they pull them out and full rebuilds and things.
Well, I know they loaded up the cars and they're at Morgan Park, I think, or this weekend.
Yep.
So
that's a cool transporter too, wasn't it?
Yeah,
you wouldn't want to work out of that one.
Yeah, I reckon I'll take the V in that. Only that.
It'd be pretty lonely in there. It's a pretty big truck.
Yeah. Well, it would be good to have something better to transport than the little red trailer.
But you know what they say? Trailers don't win races. That's a pretty popular saying we go with. So, keep your money into your car and your development. Yeah,
that's definitely a good idea. And with the drive events, you're obviously a race instructor, if people didn't know. So how can they get involved if they want someone like yourself to teach them how to drive Calder Park?
The website, driveevents.com.au, you'll find all the events that we do there. If you've got a registered car, a race car, or anything like that, we do 4 different levels. So you can start off in level 1, just learning, we pretty much take everyone back to basics, which is cornering, throttle control, and things like that. And then right up to a level 4 where we sort of really tune in. It's more of a one-on-one sort of instruction. We can get into a bit of racecraft and things like that. We find people get some really good results out of that. We get them going really quite quickly at the end of the day. So they can book a session, they can book a day, and they'll get assigned an instructor for half of their track time. It's really popular at Phillip Island. We're sort of just feeling into it at Calder at the moment. But we normally always sell out at Phillip Island, and we have a team of instructors that will jump in and give you a few tips and getting around. You should come down with the Subaru.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you guys would have your team there would obviously be very qualified to have people like yourself who've driven a million different things.
Yeah.
I haven't discussed even half of what you've done.
I've been around a lot, I suppose. Probably when I was racing motorbikes, I wasn't the most talented guy out there, but I understood a lot of the technical aspects of the riding and the techniques and things. I enrolled myself in a lot of instructional. Like I was a student in a lot of courses. I used to go up to Sydney a lot and and do a lot there with coaches. So I understand the technical aspect of things. So while I might not be the most talented or the fastest guy out there, understanding the technical aspects is really good, and you can get a lot of results from that. And then, you can pass them on to other guys that want to learn how to sort of go a bit faster as well.
Yeah. And I think Calder Park's really going to become a good track. I think that some of the V guys are definitely going to come back with a lot of different feedback.
Yeah.
Because I noticed at the Exeter Turn 1, for us, probably we're the only ones who feel it in the Formula Fords, but it's really bumpy.
Is it? Yeah. The more racing they do there is the more money that comes in. The more money that comes in, the more track work they can do. So they're really just kicking it off now. Hopefully we've got a contract through till about November.
Yep.
With drive events, and hopefully that continues, and Calder sees the money coming in, and they can we can renew the contract and really kick it into gear. And as I said, every second Friday is heaps of track time for everyone. It's close to Melbourne. People can be home by 2 or 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Get a heap of laps done, and they're talking about possibly bringing on some more days. But they have to have the client base to do it. They have to be able to justify opening the track and staff and ambos and all that.
Trust me, I think this Friday coming, you're going to have a lot more guys than what you thought.
Yeah, well, this Friday might be a little bit wet too, so it might be a little bit exciting for a few of those guys. But if it's anything like today, it's windy, so it dries out pretty quick.
Yeah. I noticed that. We had a few light showers and it just went away.
Yeah, it dried up pretty quick. Yeah, so that was all good. We haven't had a full wet day there yet. We've been pretty lucky being in the middle of winter, but there's going to be that one day where it's going to be wet, and I don't know, it just adds to the amount of skill I think you need to get around.
Might be a good opportunity to bring the Subaru out, have a bit of a slide in the wet.
Yeah, exactly. You get some tyres on it, and it's reasonably safe now. I suppose the only real sketchy bit is coming onto the straight.
Even the flip flop, I was doing full pace through there, and it's definitely more of a corner now. So are they planning on keeping it that tight? Yeah.
It will be that tight. Where those tyres are, I think they're going to run a little bit more of a ripple strip, so you'll be able to drop some wheels over the edge. But apart from that, it's going to be pretty much as it is. If you ever get into a faster car over Jane Hill there, you'll be able to get a little bit airborne. Yeah,
Craig was saying that even if you come over it straight, sometimes you end up on a different angle.
Yeah, I did some coaching with a guy that had a late model Mustang, those Mark 1 Mustangs, and that thing was spinning the wheels over the hill. It was spinning the wheels coming on the straight too on that concrete pad, which was a little bit hairy, but he kept it pretty straight, which was good.
So how long do you personally think it will take before that concrete patch is sort of rubbed in with the track?
It's pretty close now, I think. Yeah, like I said, I stopped when I was setting the track that day you come, and it's pretty close, I reckon. So it's going to be a real test if it gets wet and we have a wet day on it. That's going to be the real test on how rubbered up it is. But yeah, that was the one of the drag strip regulations. They run concrete for X amount, and then it goes on to bitumen after that. But no, it was pretty black last time. The 2 weeks before was pretty much just all concrete, but they've had quite a bit of street drags on there.
Yeah, and it's obviously going to help a lot. I'm just trying to figure out why I don't know. I feel like it will rubber up, but I did see the TA2s were sideways the whole time coming out of there.
I think it's sideways
struggling
everywhere anyway.
Yeah. And then myself, I didn't notice it. I'm just third gear, I just drive over it. Yeah, nothing.
Yeah. Those TA2 cars, they got a lot of power. I think that spin the wheels pretty much anywhere.
Yeah. They are really nice cars, and they do go quite well. See what comes to in the future, because also who are you going for in the supercars?
Look, I really like the Red Bull guys. I reckon technically they're going really good, and they understand what's going on. Obviously, with Van Gisbergen's results in the NASCAR last week, like he's just a special driver. Like he can jump in a rally car, he can jump in a NASCAR, he can jump in a supercar and drive anything. So I really appreciate the guys who are like that are just multi-talented, who can jump in anything and go fast. So yeah, what about you?
Well, I'm a Ford man.
Okay.
But I can appreciate Shane Van Gisbergen. Actually, I should apologise because on the radio last week with Welchie, I was giving him. I was saying, oh, he's got a good car and all that, and then he's gone and shut me up. So
man, they were saying he was nearly 2 seconds quicker than the other NASCAR guys.
That's crazy.
And they're arguably the best guys in the world at driving those cars. But I think Cam will go good if his car doesn't catch on fire. Again, I think he was on for the win then, wasn't he?
Yeah, in the Camaro Cup.
Yeah. So they said I was looking at the broadcast before, and they said that they've completely rebuilt that car right back from a shell, off to the paint shop, and got it all rebuilt. So,
had they figured out what that issue was? Because it wasn't just Cam's car.
Loose fuel line.
Oh,
yeah. So it was a Ford thing. Funny enough, the Camaros have a fitting which goes onto the fuel rail, which allows for a little bit of bend and flex as the engine moves around, but the Fords didn't have that. So it pretty much broke the fitting off, sprayed fuel everywhere, and that's why he had the big fire he did. Yeah,
well, always glad to see people jump out of accidents like that, because you don't want another incident in motorsport like we saw in Spa the other week. Young Formula 4 driver was killed. So
yeah, that's always pretty tragic. It's a fast track, that too, isn't it? Like there's pretty big consequences if you get that wrong.
I don't believe it's something to do with the track. I believe it's the conditions. So
yep.
They obviously, it wasn't fit to race. But yeah, people who are saying online that they should change that corner, I don't think that's really fair because it's such an iconic corner. I think they should leave it and just feel the appropriate time to race.
Yeah.
But at least he was doing what he loved, so...
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a bit of a trade-off, isn't it? Like, I understand that I had a lot of injuries through motocross and enduro and things like that, broken arms, and something always hurts. I haven't had any real injuries in the car, but if you're going to have a big one, you will get hurt properly, you know. So... It's just one of them things where... Even when I had my good race at Phillip Island, I do think the conditions were a bit, should we have actually gone out or not? Yeah.
But, I didn't complain.
No, exactly. You did pretty well. I did watch that live, actually, because I got a few of the guys that run the saloon cars as well.
Yep.
So I normally tune in when I can and watch those guys. So you did really well there. So it shows up driving skill, which is good. But, I've driven Phillip Island in the wet and such a fast track. It's pretty hairy, but I suppose that's what separates the good drivers. I suppose takes the horsepower out of the equation. Yeah. If you're a good skilled driver, you can push your way to the front.
I think now that she's reliable, we can focus on setting her up and doing well every weekend.
Yeah, you had some trouble at Winton too, didn't you? I remember seeing you there. It wasn't your best weekend, but it's motorsport, and if it was smooth sailing every weekend, it'd be a bit boring, wouldn't it? So you've just got to push through these things. That just got to remember it happens to everyone at some stage. So they might be on for a win or something, and they break and drop right down through the field. So it's hard. It's a cruel sport sometimes, but it sounds like you're on top of it now. Yeah, well, touch wood. Yeah. We go all right next round out, and I would be keen then to go back to Calder Park for drive events. And I don't know, can you sit on my roll hoop and give me coaching from that? Well, we can probably have a look at some GoPro footage if you put the SD card in. Happy to give you some tips on the day. Like I say, it really starts off a little bit on getting some good data. Getting, if obviously with the Formula V, you can't have anyone sit in the car with you. But looking at some raw data. I even still do it now at the Autocross series, using some apps and things. You can try different things, try different gears here and there, and look at some data, look at some speeds, what you're carrying through corners, and I have no doubt we can get you going pretty quick. Yeah, well, that's for the future, and obviously we've covered a fair bit today, and also for those wondering, that's for sale. Yep. And is that? This one's
yours.
Keeping.
Yep.
Yeah. No, they both go really good. We had him out a couple of weeks ago. I had my son Ty. He come down and he was putting some pretty quick laps down straight away, but couldn't pick the old man just yet. So he needs to have a little bit more practice before he can beat me. But really good fun. Like I say, we go out on the weekends and put down some laps and just really keeps your eye in for the rest of the racing. It's a good cheap way of getting out there and getting some seat time. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I never drove a senior kart. The closest I ever got was just the road taxes in the superkart. So, yeah, I don't know. Are they a lot quicker than junior karts and stuff? You ever done juniors?
Yeah, well, these rep around the track at Bendigo at about 31 seconds. They rev, this one, the X30, revs to about 17,000.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah, you're in for a bit of a ride. So, yeah, you have to come out and put a lap time down one day. And
yeah, we'll might head up to Rochi tomorrow, though.
Okay,
Might,
a day on up there.
I think they've got Golden Power. So
oh, yeah. Sweet.
Maybe.
Good
we'll
track.
See how we go.
Yeah, I remember my first open meeting was up at Rochester.
Yep.
And I was just sort of rolling around, and guys were whizzing past me everywhere. I'm like, oh, what have I got myself into? And then first race, I actually got from the back on P's, back of a 20 kart field or something. I ended up third overall for the weekend. Once it's come time to get racing, and that's where I sort of, again, a lot of the techniques just flow over.
Yeah.
From, karting, from motorbikes, and all that sort of goes into being able to drive a rally car or even a circuit car quite fast. So, it's all those little bits of experience. You put it all into a bit of a package, and it all helps.
I remember in 2000 and I think it was 16 or 17 when the Bridgestones first came out for cadets.
Yes.
They had the wets, but they wouldn't sell them to anyone because they were reserving them for nationals in case they didn't have enough.
Yeah.
So, Cooper Murray?
Yeah.
His younger brother, Jet, managed to get some before they were saying, no more, we're not selling any more. So he had a brand new set, and we ended up pinching 2 off our trolley, old Dunlop ones.
Yeah,
and,
running them.
Yeah, and someone managed to get us 2 rear ones, and we ran on an old set of Dunlop.
Sweet. I might be showing my age, but back at Bendigo when I was running the J, there was no such thing as wets. If it's wet, you run your slicks. If it's dry, you run the slicks.
Yeah.
And away you go. So we used to skid around on slicks way back then.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've got to give it to Dad. The reason I don't really want to pump up my own tyres here, but the reason I'm half decent in the wet is because he used to send me out on slicks on practice days at go-karting at Bendigo Car Club.
Yeah. Well, I remember seeing somewhere that they used to, like Schumacher and all those really good guys, you just go out and train on slicks in the wet and like just learn ultimate car control or kart control. And I know like Van Gisbergen, when he first come through supercars, he was always coming through in the wet. He was just a really, really good wet weather driver. Yeah,
I think in New Zealand they're always in the wet, so they've got that experience. So I guess when it rains, you better watch out for the New Zealanders.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're fast pretty much every day.
Yeah, anyway, yeah.
And if you go and rallying, then always the Finnish guys or the Swedish guys, because the kids are on the roads at 10 or something. So they're always fast.
Yeah. Well, I hope I don't have to go up against any Finnish while I'm doing just Bendigo.
Probably not a Bendigo.
Yeah. But what is it? Have you ever done any Vic rallies, and is it hard to get into?
Yeah, I've gone as far as some intro stuff, some intro rallies, which is the next step up. So it's sort of the step up between club stuff and Vic rally. It's the in between step. I've done some of those in this car and the in the Black Rex and the other RX I've got. Was really good. I had some good results. I think I run the first 5 on the trot or something outright. So. But it's just money, really. It's you have to go into a Vic rally sort of thing. You have to have crew coming around chasing you through the bush, fueling you here and there, and service, and the amount of spare parts and tyres you have to throw at the car and all that. It's been good to race against some Vic rally guys at Bendigo at Bagshot and sort of gauge my speed off those guys. So, but yeah, it's sort of next level. I think I've heard some pretty big budgets going around to run those events, and then if you go off the road at a Vic rally or something, you're going to pretty heavily damage your car, so I prefer not to do that.
Yeah. No, I don't think that'll be too ideal.
No.
Yeah, did you ever look up to anyone in motorsport?
I wasn't really a motorsport fan as such. I just like getting out and riding my motorbike around the paddock and things like that. Been lucky enough to meet Valentino Rossi at one of the MotoGP weekends. Don't have anyone I really idolise that sort of comes to mind. I sort of, a sport, like say supercars, I'll follow a particular team here or there. Toby Price is a good guy that's doing off-road stuff. Before he was a household name, I used to race against him way back when. we used to be in different classes, but, before he made a name of himself at Dakar and Finke and things like that. So he's always a guy that's been, I've looked up to and followed his progress, and now he's sort of getting a little bit older. He's out of the cars and into the trophy truck now.
He's in everything, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's what the good thing, he finds the trophy truck actually quite easy to drive after riding your bike all the way down to Finke and back. So the car you just sit down and press your foot down as
Yeah.
Obviously the thing's pretty well dialed in, so it's a great piece of kit. But I follow Toby's stuff a bit. I always watch the Dakar every year. There's been some guys from Bendigo go across to Dakar.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And do the event. It's a really, really high budget event to get over there, rent a bike and to actually compete. So, just people that sort of find interesting or special interest, like local guys and things like that. I like to follow their progress.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know you were big into Finke and Dakar and stuff.
Yeah, I did Finke in 99.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I rode a KTM 300 in Finke. So I placed top 50, which was pretty good for a bit of a rookie. Yeah, top 50 outright. That was a good event, really eye-opener. I'd like to go back one day.
Yeah.
Time and money allows. It's got pretty big now. It's a pretty big budget event, so I'd have to make a bit of allowance for money and time off and things like that. I've done a lot of 4-day enduros, 6 or 7 of those. So I don't know if you know much about them. It's just 4 days on the bike, just riding through the bush and special tests and things, and a bit of desert racing. Done the Condo 750 a couple of times,
okay.
And that's like a road booked event.
Yeah.
So you have a map roller on the front of your bike, so you're singing through the bush at 170 odd k an hour, and you're winding the map to the next waypoint and things like that. So that's always pretty interesting. So did a little bit of that, 97, 98, 99. So I've been around a bit. Been lucky enough to ride bikes internationally, US, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, things like that.
Yeah, wow,
So motorsport's been really good to me, actually. Being able to travel and obviously all over Australia, Finke, up north or into the centre and things like that, and condos. So bikes are pretty much my life for a long time, and met a lot of good people and done a lot of travel and seen a lot of cool things through bikes or through motorsport in general. So it's been a pretty good ride.
Yeah, wow, that's actually really incredible. I didn't know you did that. Me and Dad are actually watching Pikes Peak the other day. So we're watching Lila Block. She was racing a tribute car to her dad.
Yeah, the unicorn. Yeah, really sad. I did follow Ken for a long time, actually. When you say idols, I did really closely follow Ken's stuff. He was just a pioneer in what he did, and him and Pastrana.
Yeah, he jumped out of an airplane without a parachute on.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the last Hoonigan, or the last thing that Pastrana did. He rode that Huckster.
Oh, wow.
The Subaru wagon down the rails, and he jumped them over bridges that didn't exist and things like that. So
he's crazy.
Yeah, and I was sad about Ken. It can happen to anyone. He does all this crazy stuff and then dies in a snowmobile accident. So, pretty sad. But, if you die doing what you love, I guess, you've done okay.
Yeah, and it's good to see his daughter's following in his legacy. She's a big Porsche fan from what I've seen. So, it's good.
Interesting fact, her co-driver in the USA Rally Series is actually a local girl. She's from Wedderburn here. So Brendan's Rhiannon. So Brendan's sister is her co-driver, who was married to Ken's co-driver.
Mm-hmm.
So Ken's co-driver is married to Rhiannon, and she's helping Layla. So that's really cool. It's a nice connection to local guys here. So
well, that's actually really cool. And Ken Block will always be remembered as he's a cool guy.
Always did, yeah. He did some pretty risky stuff, but it was always calculated.
Yeah.
He didn't just go out there and say, I'm going to jump this thing. And I guess that's what leads to a bit of longevity in the sport and doing that sort of stuff. Have a proper look at it and work out, have the proper guys calculating and you need to hit it this fast to be able to make it. but yeah, it looked pretty risky, and it was, but it was calculated.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, he left a really big legacy behind. It was pretty cool to see all the stuff, and that stuff will live on for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, because he inspired a lot of people to he was even a good rally car driver when he got in a rally car. So
yeah.
He did a lot of different things, a bit like yourself, to be honest. He was in a bit of everything.
Well, he founded DC Shoes, so that's how he sort of got the money to be able to go racing and things like that. Yeah, a really, really talented driver. I actually saw him at Calder. He came to Calder years ago and brought his. It was a Subaru hatch at the time. It was sponsored by Monster, and he came out and did some skids and took people for rides and things like that way back when. So that was really good to see him in person.
Yeah, one icon. He'll be remembered for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would be your advice for someone who's getting into motorsport, or for your 15-year-old self, 16-year-old self?
So anyone getting into motorsport, I guess, would be to just persevere. A lot of people are pretty impatient like myself. You want to go out there and win straight away. It's not always possible. Mm-hmm. Stick with it. Your time will come. Involve yourself, surround yourself, ask lots of questions of people who are sort of you're looking up to, the faster guys, and you'll find quite often that they're happy to pass on any information. Get some good training and really study. Love what you're doing, study what you're doing. A lot of times, I'd go away and we'll watch past races or something and do your homework on what tracks are coming up and stuff like that. You really have to live and breathe it to go well. It's not for everyone. There's a lot of sacrifices to be made depending on what level you want to go to. But just love it. Don't get burnt out. Stick with it, even though you might not have the the most competitive setup. Your time will come, and enjoy it and enjoy the ride, I guess.
Cool. Thanks so much, Brad. We really appreciate it. And to anyone out there who's looking for a go-kart, that's an X30. Right here.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
No worries.